This conference will now be recorded.
For the regular November 20th, 2023 council meeting to order at 7 p.m. All rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, I always hurry it up.
Okay. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Nope.
If not, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll move to accept the agenda as written.
So moved by Counselor Webb. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Norman.
Chair Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Wagner,
Aye.
Counselor Norman,
Aye.
Counselor Ash,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, any presentations tonight? None? Mayor's report. This time of month, that we have recognition of the Citizen of the Month.
We're gonna move that to the first meeting in December.
Okay,
The person wasn't available.
okay. All right. And I have none other to report, so. Any councilor committee meeting reports tonight? I have a confession to make. I completely forgot about my senior board meeting last Friday. So I'm not unable to report on that one, and hopefully next month I'll get back to the program, so no other committee meeting reports? Okay. Topics from the floor.
I have one
Okay.
from Amy Saloa.
Okay, Amy, if you come to the dais and just state your name for the record, that's all you need to do.
Amy Saloa. Here to bug you guys one more time. I just kind of wanted to follow up, since last council meeting, that was provided to us, which I appreciate. As of today, there are some barriers, some wooden logs in place for the drive that we've been discussing. So that's something. But I wanted to address a couple of things, right? I'm just not really ready to put this to bed. And I hope that you guys can be on board with that and understand where we're coming from. From some reading that I've done, it looks like the city of Vernonia requires permits for any structure 200 feet or under. Structures over 200 feet require a building permit. The property that we're discussing, we've already been over this, but I'm going to repeat myself, has a Connex. I don't know the size of it, but it's pretty big. Has a pretty large motorhome, and it has a wooden shed or outbuilding or however you want to identify that structure.
Amy, is that the one on the trailer, on a axle?
Yeah, they drug it up there on something.
Okay.
The city is, and some of this is just, kind of going over this. There's been 19 complaints that have been reported since 2016. We've just talked about kind of what sits on the property. There are no tents on the property right now, which means this time of year, they don't live in tents, right? They live in tents in the summertime, and then the weather changes and they move into those structures that, to my knowledge, are not permitted, have not gone through any legal form with the city. It says complaints have to be proven and the landowner has the right to prove himself and prove his. Okay, well, we know that there's a lot of things that have gone on that property over the course since 2016 and the 19 complaints and the 12 visits that code enforcement or in conjunction with Vernonia Police have visited that property. It sounds like the city's goal is not to cite people, but rather help them get into compliance with whatever is needed, right? That's fine, and I agree to that, but it's been 7 years. Okay, so the frustration level is a little high because we're not talking about something that just got reported, a couple months ago, like, hey, there's this issue. This is something that's been ongoing and dates back for a long time. Has the property owner actually shown signs of improvement? I'm not sure how a person could say yes. It's changed over the course of the years. Is it better than it was? Is it a little bit tidier than it was? Maybe, but as far as I can see, they're still not following the city's code, which is they shouldn't be living in these structures. The last meeting, we had talked about maybe updating some ordinances to kind of help situations like this, not just ours, but anywhere that this could pop up in the city. And your response to that in the local paper was that that's just not realistic. That we're complaining, that the complaining neighbor's request to update these ordinances is not realistic. Well, maybe you could tell me why that's not realistic.
I think the words I said was, we won't be doing an ordinance for one specific property.
Oh, I'm not asking for our
No, I know.
situation.
According to our legal counsel, it would have to be in the midst of like a code overhaul. We couldn't have council going like that. So that's what I said. I don't remember saying it's not realistic.
I didn't.
That's not in print.
It is in print.
Yeah, there's,
But I said it's not realistic,
It's
and I'm not understanding this, what you said.
So you made a statement about complaining neighbors, which if you want to title us as complaining neighbors, that's fine, but we have a right to have concerns and bring it to you guys because that's your job, right? Is to listen to citizens. So, I'm a little bit offended that I'm being labeled as a complaining neighbor. I'll take it, that's fine, but I don't think it needed to be worded that way. But it does say, you can read it, I don't need to rehash, I don't have the paper in front of me right now, but it does state that. It also stated that the most recent visit, which was, just a couple of weeks ago that you guys were up there, that there were no violations. So I guess I'm looking for an explanation how there are no violations with what's happening back there right now. There are people back there. There are no tents. There are structures that human beings are living in, habitating in. So if I'm not understanding the code, then please let me know. I'm not claiming to understand everything. I'm just here to say I don't like what's happening, and I don't think that what is happening is actually right per the rules of the city of Vernonia.
So when that article came out, there were no violations. I could tell you right now, there's been 3 citations written since then.
Well, that's good. I'm happy to hear
Those violations are being addressed. But when Scott interviewed us, that was before they had gone up. He had mentioned something that then warranted code enforcement to go up there because he had gone up there.
I know he went up there because I went with him. He asked me if he could.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the timing. From when the paper came out and what we got interviewed on, he mentioned something. Code went and inspected from the right of way, saw there were no tents, talked to the person saying they are staying in that structure that's on the wheels, and that's what has then now got.
It's just a little bit frustrating because I've been communicating that to you guys, that people are living back there, and you guys are like, well, there's no proof, we can't forget.
Amy, when they have tents,
We can't assume. That's the thing about being the municipality is we have to go and take them at their word.
But it's
We can't go on their
them
property.
living in the woods behind my house, and yes, they are in tents in the fair weather. That's a fact.
Right. So
But
we can only,
it's not fair weather at least half of the year. So half of the year, they're not complying.
but if they had a tent out in November,
and they told me I'm sleeping in there, and all I can see from the right of way is an RV that doesn't look like it's got slide outs pushed out and a tent. I can't do anything. I can't go on their property and search in the RV to see if they're habitating there. There's just like strings that people have a right to use their property. We can't just go barreling in there and catch them doing what they say they're not doing. We can't go on their property.
We're also telling you what's happening behind our home.
I understand.
And that's why you have umpteen complaints that have come in since 2016. And we're just asking, as tax-paying citizens who live in the city limits of Vernonia, that people take this serious, because what's going to happen is this isn't just a problem behind my house. If nothing gets done here, we're going to have this all over. I am pretty sure that none of you want this all over town. We have a beautiful place that we live in. It's disgusting back there. It's disgusting. It's right in town. And they are coming in off of Stony Point, and now that attention has been drawn to this and people are aware of sort of where this is. I mean, I just talked to somebody today that said, oh yeah, they're coming in off of Stony Point, I see them. And I know I've said that, they're coming in from behind to not draw attention coming up G Street. So I would like to know if they need to have a permit for any of these structures, or if they do have a permit for any of these structures.
Yeah, I can get you information. I don't have that offhand. I don't believe they have one for the RV, because unless they're doing the habitation of an RV permit, and they wouldn't meet the standards. You have to be less than so many months. You have to have a plan for pumping. You have to, all of that.
So that's not going to be an,
Okay, we're not going to ever approve them living in an RV there.
I'm going to just venture to guess that they don't have permits for any of the structures.
Like, if the structure on the trailer isn't sitting on the ground, it doesn't count as an accessory structure. It'd be the same if someone's like tool trailer, like they don't see that as a building permit structure. Has to be something 200 feet or more on the ground. So like could be a tough shed, like we had to get a permit for the tough shed at the senior center because it's too, it's less than 200 square feet, but since it's sitting on the ground. So that's going to be a tricky one. We're going to say you can't live in it, and that's, I believe, what the citation is, but we can't make them get a permit for something that's on wheels as a structure per Oregon State Building Code. That's the messed up part. Our hands, I mean, we're paying attention. We did go up and follow up once we heard other information. We are moving forward on that, but we can't just we have to go from the right of way.
And I know that, I mean, I wasn't with Scott the second time he went to the property, and I know that he reported back that the woman, admitted that she was living in the tent or which is underneath the structure, which is on the wheels,
Right.
blah, 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 whatever. And that's great, and I appreciate that Scott has taken an interest in this, but at the same time, like, we've been saying this. We have been saying the same words, and it wasn't until Scott said it.
No, it's not until the lady admitted it. That's the tricky part. Every time we've gone up, she says, yep, I'm sleeping in that tent. Okay, we're kind of stuck with that.
Well, I hope that, I was never asking that you take our situation and treat it separately than what you would treat any other situation like this in the city. But I do think that it would be worth looking at the ordinances that we have or the codes that we have in place so that we can protect all people, because I don't feel like we are being very well protected.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, cassette agenda for acceptance, none. Cassette agenda for approval, city council meeting minutes for November 6, 2023.
I move to accept the consent agenda for approval.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Counselor Webb.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Counselor Ash,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor Wagner.
Aye.
Counselor Normand,
Aye.
motion carried.
Any unfinished business tonight? Okay, moving right into new business. Waste management collection rate increase. Pages 4 through 6. So Everyone have a copy of the,
Go for it.
Okay,
oh, yeah,
thank you.
welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and city council members. My name is Dave Huber, and I'm WM's public sector manager for all of our Oregon area. And with me this evening, I've got two of my colleagues tonight, two of our route managers that oversee the operations here for the city of Vernonia as well as Columbia County. And this is Nick Reese and Josh Peters. And one of them is going to be up early in the morning because one's the early manager, one's the late manager. So I'm not sure who drew the short straw, but I appreciate both of them being here this evening. Just to put a face to the name. But yeah, they are definitely the ones that oversee the day-to-day operations and take care of the routes and the drivers up here in the city. And I have some history too. I've been involved in the garbage business here in the city of Vernonia for just over 20 years. For those of you who've been here a long time, I know Bob Prohaska, who
Yeah.
used to own the business up here. I got to ride around with him back in 1998 when he sold the business back then. So with that, I wanted to, we're here this evening for a rate increase. I know it's been quite a few years since we've been up here seeking a rate increase, but wanted to, explain really why the talking points or the bullet points is for the, why the increase. But I also want, Nick's here this evening too, and I wanted Nick to be able to kind of talk about some of the operations, day-to-day operations, and some good things that we have to share with you. So
yeah, so first I'll get into our customer count for residential customers within the city limits. This year on October 31st was 778. Last year it was 773. This year for commercial was 62, while last year was 63. And then our roll-off numbers have stayed at a strong 3 for both years. Something that we're extremely proud about, this group of drivers that we have working the streets of Vernonia, is that we haven't had a single vehicle accident since I've started, which was in 2018. We haven't had any operational liabilities. We're currently nominating one of the drivers for Driver of the Year within our organization for Waste Management of Willa. And then last year we nominated one of the drivers as well for Driver of the Year. And that came from a site about 35. And we kind of have a specialty sector for Columbia County. And we have all experienced drivers except for one. We have a new recycle driver, and he's going in for a driver that was with us for 21 years after retirement. So with that, we are extremely proud of the drivers that are servicing the city.
So, we provide comprehensive trash recycling services for the city. We have weekly garbage service and then every other week recycling service with glass included. And then of course we also operate the Vernonia transfer station two times each month for the community as well as the outskirts of the city of Vernonia. But as I mentioned earlier, due to several factors, and the one that really, triggered it this year was we had a disposal increase at the Columbia County transfer station, disposal pass-through increase, which was a 5.1% increase that took effect in July. And so that, due to that, as well as, cost of living, inflation, everything from driver wages to keeping up with our equipment, we really see that it's necessary at this point to, ask for the rate increase to be effective January 1st. And it is a significant increase. It would be about just over $4 a month more per customer that has a typical 35-gallon garbage can. So those are really the reasons why, in particular, it's the rate increase at the transfer station where all the garbage flows to from Vernonia down to St. Helens, and cost of living, inflationary issues. And I know it's been a while since we've been up here. I'd like to blame the pandemic a little bit for that, but what we'd also like to do is try to get on a more normal schedule, maybe at least every, if not every year, every 2 years, come up and kind of, assess where we're at and see if we need to do an increase to keep us within a, reasonable range, reasonable rate of return. So it's not as big of an impact, for the customers like we're about to see here. So with that, I'd like to open it up to all of you, see if you have any questions.
So Dave, once it leaves our transfer station, and you said it goes back to St. Helens,
That's right.
and then it's transported out to McMinnville to the landfill there, or still, or not anymore?
Now it goes down to the Columbia County Transfer Station, and then from there, the county transfer station has a contract with another company, which is called Waste Connections. And so they move the material, it goes to the Wasco County landfill currently. And I think that's for the length of the contract that Waste Connections has with the Columbia County Transfer Station, the county.
Where's Wasco County?
If you go out I-84 towards the Dalles and then just go south of the Dalles, I want to say it's about maybe 35, 40 minutes south of the Dalles. The Riverbend landfill.
Yeah.
Waste Management, WM, we own that landfill, but it's currently still open, but we're not taking any wet waste there.
Washington County takes theirs.
No longer. Washington County takes their waste from our Forest Grove transfer station. It goes down to a landfill called Coffin Butte, which is down towards Corvallis.
So it's all trucked?
All trucked.
So, yeah, my question before you even got started and what I thought about was the high rate of inflation. I mean, it's killing us, and especially with the fuel costs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to, we've gotten some new trucks this past year.
Yep, we have a handful.
And which is good because we want to keep up in it. But that's been, with the past couple of years with the supply chain, getting trucks. But they are diesel, and the cost of diesel, it's gone up. That's pretty significant role too. So.
First of all, let me start off with a compliment. You kind of jumped on it about your drivers being such great drivers. I have called more than once with compliments because I drive to St. Helens every day and back, and I run across them both in town, here in town there, and along the road. And I have always been impressed that they go the speed limit, or not if it's not safe, but it's something that as a customer, as a human being, I notice when there are truckers, particularly or truck drivers, that are honoring what they're supposed to do, and because those certain log truck drivers do not. I almost in the ditch twice last week, so that was fun. You might have mentioned it and I missed it. When was the last increase?
So I believe the last increase was in 2018.
Yeah.
It was that, so it was pre-COVID. It was
Yeah.
when I was there. Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So that is going to offset a little bit of my complaint, an observation, not necessarily complaint. It's a 20% increase, which is significant. I understand that your rate to dump is 5.1% increased. That kind of levels it a little bit out, the fact that it's been 5 years since the last increase. But I do have a question. So urban areas versus rural areas, I understand it's more expensive. However, you make a lot potentially a lot more in a urban area than you do here. And I know I understand we have a franchise, you have a franchise, but there's no competition to compete for that franchise here. And I am just asking, the question is, would this rate be so high if it were, one, in an urban area, and two, or is there a possibility of getting an offset since we are rural and low income, a lot of low income people in this community? And I'm just asking the question because I feel it's important to ask.
Definitely good questions. And I think that's why we're always sensitive about this because, it impacts people. It's easy to be up here and say it's only $4 a month, but that's a lot to a lot of people. So, but to look, I think to answer your question about rates, and we're the only service provider. However, if you look at the rates that we provide services for unincorporated Columbia County, so the county customers and SCAP Foods, for example, it's hard to compare apples to apples because the services are a little different. So, some cities we might offer recycling weekly, or they might have yard debris service, or it might be a subscription service. So it's always hard to kind of compare them perfectly the same. However, I will say the rates that we do have here in the city of Vernonia are certainly competitive, and I think they're, I want to say they're pretty, I know that they're lower than some of the smaller cities that are in Columbia County too. So, and we obviously try to do that too. We want to be, our goal is to run safe operations and keep everybody safe and run efficiently as possible for our customers, because if we can run it as efficiently and as lean as possible, it keeps the cost down for the customers ultimately. So.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that because I came from an area where you did have competition equally as distant to the transfer station where they had to dump. And our rates were, I mean, it was like we're offering a deal, and it was yard debris. It was all of it. And like I said, very rural, but still a lot of competition. So is there the opportunity to make a case to Waste Management, the bigger corporation, to profit share to reduce the costs in rural areas? I'm not just talking about it. I am talking about us, but I'm also thinking, I don't know that that's ever been, I can't believe it hasn't been proposed to them, but to make it a little more equitable. We do make choices to live in rural areas. Some people don't have that choice. That's where they live. And, you've got an economy of scale in, I don't know what big areas you do serve, but in those areas, you have that economy of scale to be able to maybe carve out a little bit of that to maybe offset some of the expenses in your other areas. And maybe you already do, and that's why we aren't paying $100 a month for.
Yeah, that's exactly. You have some great questions, and I think that's to answer it. I think what we currently are doing that in a way. So, for example, we were in front of the city of SCAP Foods in I think it was July to have their rates go into effect because of the rate increase. I think it was August, maybe September. So, I mean, we certainly are trying to utilize or touch on those economies of scales when we can and keep those costs, competitive for all the municipalities, all the cities that we do serve.
What percentage of our residential customers are at that 132 gallon weekly pickup level?
That is a great question. I don't have that with me tonight. I can certainly get that information and let you know.
Is that the majority, you would say, though?
It is a majority. I would say 80% at least, probably good. Yeah.
Okay.
That's 80%.
Okay. I'm just asking because I mean, from there, it goes up $7 to $8 increases. So if, if we had a lot of people at a higher level and we're talking about $4, like that's the primary, that'd be concerning.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think Councilor Wagner, I think it should equate to a 14.82%.
I got 14.
Okay,
Yeah. But now,
I was adding in my head, which,
Okay.
yeah, if you look at and one thing I guess I should note too is if you look at the CPI increase, for the past 5 years, that does equate to, I think it was just over 20%. And so, but again, we feel like this is enough to keep us within, where we need to be without, going to that full CPI over the last 5 years. So. But we can get that information to you too on how many customers, but yeah, I think Dave's probably right in that ballpark. It's probably, I'd say 80%.
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
I just want to touch on something real quick. So we were talking about just like the rate increase. So I don't live too far from here, but I don't have WM's trash hauler. I have SWATCO, and we went through a similar increase earlier this year. So I don't know how long it had been for a rate increase for them, but it was similar.
Another service provider.
Another service provider. I live Banks.
Yeah.
Banks.
And your service probably isn't as good as
When it snows, it doesn't get picked up.
Dale?
Yeah, I just want to also compliment your drivers. I live kind of on a private drive that had chip sealing on it, and they were turning around where it was chip sealed and it was starting to slip it. And we just talked to the driver and said, hey, can you just turn around in this gravel driveway down here a little further? And he, oh yeah, whatever you want, And in fact, he says, I'm going to turn around, I'm going to go in the other way and I'll just back down here and get all you guys. So very accommodating. So.
That's great. Yeah.
And then I've had a couple of discussions with them over the years and they've been really good.
Love hearing it.
Receptive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do.
Also, your workers at the transfer station are very accommodating too. I use it maybe once every 6 weeks and
I think
they're always fun to go in.
Saturday, right?
Saturday.
Yeah, I think I saw Rod was saying he was.
Yeah, and I told them about the Monday night rate increase presentation. They didn't know anything about it. So I'm sure they're gonna hear about it pretty soon, but those guys do a good job now.
Yeah, I've been saying all night, we're very proud of them.
Yeah.
And that's something else that they deal with too at the transfer station, is trying to maintain that as best as they can. Helping people dumping illegally,
Yeah.
vandalism. So, it's kind of some unseen costs that we do deal with.
And in your office, if you ever want to order a drop box of any side, they're very easy to work with over the phone too. And so it's a good service you guys provide for our community.
And I would like to compliment these two gentlemen here because, before I was in this role overseeing all of our contracts, I was the district manager for operations in Washington County, up here in Columbia County, as well as Yamhill County. And these two gentlemen do a great job. Josh is usually the early AM manager, and so he leads the guys out in the morning, and it's always a safety message, something to take away, a key nugget to be careful of. And then Nick is the closer, and he takes care of all those needs when the drivers come in at the end of the day. They always have issues or concerns, things to fix. But these two gentlemen do an amazing job. And I do miss working with them every day because now I'm, all over the place. But it's great knowing that, they're responsible and taking care of ultimately, the city, the customers, and our drivers too. So.
So I get to drive with you guys because I drive school bus every morning too, about in the morning time. So I see you guys out there quite a bit. You guys do a good job. Anything else? Okay. Don?
I'd like to thank you too. You guys have seemed to do a good job, and there's sometimes the weather was nasty. I said, I wouldn't be out there. And you are, and you guys are usually good about letting people know on holidays what the changes are gonna be. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Josh, I can't believe you send these guys out in bad weather, but
If I can make it in from down the road, they can.
Yeah.
Pick it up safely, we will.
Yeah, exactly. Especially coming over the hill.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you for those comments. I know, one thing that I also should add is, our company, we're continuing to, take on the technology that's with us. And so our local website, if you go to wnnorthwest.com, and I can send that link to your email to you, but it has a page for every city that we service in the Pacific Northwest. So go all the way to the bottom, you can see Vernonia. And, but it's nice because it has all the, any updates, the services that we provide, drop boxes, if you need drop boxes from us. And of course, with the new technology, you can do that. I'm still not into this new technology yet, but you can do the chat, with a real person. And, but you can send our company an email too and ask them, whatever you need, and you'll get a response that same day too. So it's nice to see that, new technology, especially, the world we live in now. So.
Okay. Thank you, Dave, and
Thank you.
other gentlemen for
Thank you.
good informative, very informative. Thank you.
One of you guys wants to make a motion to direct staff to bring forward a resolution adopting the rate increase at the next meeting?
Yes, please. I'm in. Do we need a motion?
Yeah,
Yep.
Moved.
okay.
Motion's been made to bring to staff a resolution for the December 4th meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Counselor Webb.
Big pause there.
That's like.
I'd like to have a little discussion.
Okay.
Well, the elephant in the room here is if we vote no, we have no service, correct?
We'll still be up here, but. Yeah,
I mean, it's the facts of the matter. You're right.
We would just have to come back a lot quicker and say, okay, this is the end, but, it's,
Yeah. We have a franchise agreement, but we have to honor.
So that, it would be nice to see that in the future regardless, that, yeah, the updates come smaller and more frequent, I think. I mean, that's kind of what we did with the water rates and everything. So this eases the burden on people when it's incremental instead of a big hit at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, good point taken. We'll definitely do that. Just, so it's not as huge of an impact for sure.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded.
Are you ready now?
We are ready, I think.
Counselor Ash?
Aye.
Counselor Wagner?
Aye.
Mayor Hobart?
Aye.
Counselor Webb?
Aye.
Norman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you, guys. You bet.
You too. Drive home safe.
Thank you.
Yes. Dear, that tonight was terrible.
Measure 110 resolution, interest discussion, 7 and 8.
So Scott Jorgensen, who is the city administrator for Rainier, and Jerry Cole, who's the mayor, sent us the resolution they adopted. There. And so I bringing it to you guys. Is this something you're interested in? And if so, let us know. We'll bring you back a similar resolution. If that's something, a lot of the cities that are feeling like amendment would just sit in committee forever are feeling like this is the better push for the legislature is to repeal it and then come up with something that works. And they're trying to get, most of the cities are trying to get their resolutions adopted so that they can present them all in the short session that they'll have after the holiday. To present what the majority of cities in the state are hoping something is done with 110, whether that's repeal, whatever the different resolutions say, is the point of view of the cities.
So is Rainier initiating the ask that we could?
They already,
Or we just got a sample? Where is the request originating? Did Rainier say, hey,
No.
we should do this, or did
they
get a
just
sample?
said, we did this. Here's our resolution in case your cities are interested. So the other cities are asking through their mayors or city administrators, the councils, is this something you're interested in? Because the goal would be, if we are interested, that we get in the packet of all the interested cities to make a statement to the legislature.
Actually, it came to my email.
Well, it came to both of us.
It came to me too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know who Scott sent it to.
I brought it
Yeah, and Rick said he would.
as an agenda item to this meeting. I think I've shared with you before that I've been involved in this repeal or amendment on Measure 110 for the last couple months. I sat on a meeting over at the courthouse about a month ago. I was invited by Commissioner Magruder. And I went and attended that meeting. There was Columbia County Mental Health, two commissioners there, Sheriff Pixley and a deputy of his. A lot of discussion about Measure 110. So I have a pretty good understanding of it. I've done a lot of research on it, and it's my opinion it's not working. There's approximately you're not going to believe this, but there's 1 out of every 10 Oregonian is a drug addicted. There's 300,000 people in Oregon today that are drug addicted. And this measure was intended to help provide funding and to get people that were addicted into treatment centers. Well, there's a big shortage of treatment centers. And there's even a bigger shortage of public defenders, not only in Multnomah County, but there's a crisis in Deschutes County now, the shortage of public defenders. And so these people are arrested for over an hour or whatever the deal is. And they're not being able to be held in jail, so they're released out in the public. So it's not working. And my personal opinion that it needs to be repealed. And I've talked to law enforcement, they're not in favor of it either. It ties both their hands behind their backs. And so I just brought it to the council tonight to discuss and look at it. And, that's where we're at, so.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts as you, Mayor. To me, it looked like a failed experiment, which has cost people's lives.
Yeah.
I mean, we all need to be aware of that people have died because of this measure, in my opinion. I think we do have to criminalize this behavior with the way our laws are. some of these people are going to have to become wards of the state in order to force them into treatment to get the help that they actually need to be successful members of our society. And there's a lot of people just choosing not to be on their own volition. And you can't compel anybody to go get help. And we took the only tool away that we had because like you say, addiction is a huge part of this. And mental health is a huge part of this. And without having a mechanism to compel people to get help, we're not solving the problem. So unfortunately, I mean, unless they can change the laws, do more civil commitments to a program, then it has to be criminal. And that's an unfortunate part of that. Now, it doesn't have to be a felony. It could be a misdemeanor offense. And that's something the legislature is going to have to deal with. But I think it needs to go back. Not working.
And
We've gutted our law enforcement. They have no ability to get at the dealers now because they used to flip the users to get at the dealers. And you can't do anything with somebody with lesser amounts of possession. So, I mean, I think we would all agree that people that are making a living off dealing drugs, these poor souls need to be incarcerated. Big time.
And the people that are issued tickets, $100 tickets, they're just not showing up and paying them.
Yeah, the court system failed us on that one.
Yeah,
so it's not. But I don't want to see it just being criminal. It's got to be the services that's the part of this equation. If they had the services and the treatment and had some success with it. And I know some of the people that were for this are saying, well, you haven't given us enough time. Well, how many dead bodies you want on the street to prove your case, And it's not just those people, it's society as a whole. They're suffering from this. We have higher crime rates because of this, because they have to fund their addiction. That's always been the thing with drugs. Then we have the criminal aspect of it. So yeah, I agree. We need to do something. I mean, I would support something. I think. Yeah, and they're probably right. I'm trying to go say we need to amend it. It will probably get. I mean, the legislature is not real. I mean, they've been part of this problem, and so telling them we just want you to repeal it and start over, I think probably is the sounder approach. Fortunately.
What does the rest of the council feel? Thanks, Dale.
They don't think it's working. They didn't have enough stuff ready to deal with the problem.
Yeah.
So it's just creating a bigger problem.
Susan.
My concern, and I'm not clear on this resolution as a model, what does it put back in place? Rather than, I mean, it's great if you repeal it, but what is in its stead? Does it revert back to
the prior laws on the books? That's how I understand it. So there wouldn't be it would be a misdemeanor, but that is the charge for the small amounts. But instead of kind of the write you a ticket and you go on your way, there's probably detention, there's probably an arrest of some sort depending on the amount. But that's going to probably be up to what the legislature does anyway. They may repeal it and then address those laws in some way. I don't know what that would be.
My biggest concern is if they're not ready to act on that we're going to be in the same situation we are now because of releasing those held more than 7 days without representation, which I agree that's appropriate. You shouldn't be just held.
Yeah.
But That's a concern, kind of like when they enacted this, it's, well, you didn't have all those other pieces in place. Is this gonna
Right.
provide, okay, so now you can do something about it, but still not gonna be anything in place to be able to
Right.
solve it. But I don't disagree, it's a failed, well, a lot of times, the things they're enacting, they're, people's intent may have been good, but it was not also funded with all of those other components that needed to be put into place at the same time.
Right.
It's not an easy answer either way.
I'm definitely friendly in the amendment camp. I think similar to what Susan was saying is that I think repealing would be appropriate if we were saying that our prior system that we had for decades was working. And I don't feel that it was. And so while I agree that 110 has been dramatically flawed in its intent and writing and implementation, I worry that a full repeal just puts us back at square one, and then it's going to be that much harder to get something new off the ground. So I don't know. I think pushing for an amendment with a very large overhaul is where I'm comfortable, but I'm not in favor of a full repeal. We didn't provide the mental health services before either, so that's not a byproduct of 110. That's a full failure all around.
Well, and whatever you guys come up with doesn't have to be this version. This is just what they chose. So if you collectively want us to present you with something and then you kind of mark it up and we bring it back to the 18th or something, we just need to know if you're interested for us to get on something to be delivered to you for the packet for the 4th.
I personally would like to see a couple of options of different cities propose, a proposal from staff as to a couple of different resolutions, one for amendment, one for repeal.
Okay.
Just to see what's out there. My one question about some of the statements in here, it's, our observations have been that it's the exact opposite of what the intent was, that there is an increase in overdose deaths, et cetera. And I guess part of my concern is, was that entirely because of 110 or because of the inherent increase of the use of drugs that are out on the streets? And I understand that law enforcement they don't have control over it. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of drugs that come through the system. But I'm not sure 110 was necessarily the nexus of why there's such an increase in drug deaths. Because at the federal level, the criminal activity is still equally or increased over what it has been. They have access to make it, they bring it in, and if less gets on the streets, it's still an increased amount from what it used to be. So I'm not saying that it's not to be blamed, but I'm also not sure it's entirely the reason for all of the increases.
And I mean, to that effect, also what an unfortunate timing that it was put out coinciding with COVID, when the mental health of our entire society has tanked and the houselessness and financial burden is like at an all-time high. So
What do you think has caused homelessness? What's 85% of
in
the
addition to
homeless
drugs,
population
I
is
would
drug
say
addicted?
the pandemic and corporate greed.
Well, I'm going to make a motion because I can. I move that the city council direct staff to return a council resolution calling for the repeal/amendment of Measure 110 at the December 4th, 2023 meeting.
Ask-
Second that.
Okay. Can I ask a question before you vote?
Sure.
So what I'm hearing, so that everyone's addressed, is that we're going to bring you a draft resolution, but we're also going to include some other some other towns' versions for you to come to the meeting with what corrections you want made to the draft resolution based on what you saw in other towns or cities' resolutions.
That was my request.
That way you can see kind of what someone that did amendment only, we have this one, and then maybe one that is a mix. And then you guys can determine, we'll draft one, right? And we can change it. But then you'll determine which of those you like the best and want to model yours after. Does that work for the 4th? And if you have more discussion, we can always bring it back on the 18th. Is that what I'm hearing? Is there consensus that that's what everyone wants? Or am I just bringing a draft resolution?
I just really like this.
I know, but I'm just thinking if the goal is to have the majority of council vote to do it, we should probably bring all the versions and you guys should draft. Maybe some of the elements are the exact same, but maybe some are your very own.
So what your motion was to bring a resolution encouraging the repeal or amendment. Are you wanting it to be either or, I mean, the resolution says we want something to be done, whether it be one of these two things? That's what you said.
That's why I think it's maybe more than, I wanted you guys to have maybe more time to draft your own version that really speaks to what you're talking about. Because one is increasing maybe you want to talk about the people don't have public defenders. So if it's a direct repeal, what are you going to do with all those people? They're all going to be, you got the same problem, I think.
So
I don't know.
limited to one motion, because I don't know that we need to pressure Rick's motion. Can we counter move?
Say count, what do you mean count?
What's available?
You can either vote on the motion that's on the table, or you can make a motion to amend the motion that's on the table.
Yeah.
It's really complicated and confusing. The easiest way is to vote on the motion that's on the table, pass or fail it.
And then someone re-up with the.
If you want, if it fails, then you.
But did his motion include the slash amendment clause?
Yes.
It really.
Okay, so that covers the base.
But I mean, I think he's clearly saying he's moving for this and.
But his motion
for
said calling for the repeal slash amendment of Measure 1.
We're bringing you a draft. You guys are going to have that back and forth with each other, with it in front of you, with some other examples. That I'm just double checking. You want other cities' examples to see what are other cities saying to the legislature, so that you can kind of look around and see which ones match you guys and what you want to say, and not just word for word copy Rainier, because maybe you want to tweak it. I don't know.
It wouldn't be word for Rainier, because Rainier's doesn't say amend.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is ultimately, that's why I wanted to bring you examples, is so you can see what other cities are saying. And maybe you like their wording better. I don't know.
That's fine.
Okay.
That was my motion.
So your motions, hold on.
Okay.
So your motion is to direct staff. We're just going to go through this now because it'll be way easier on everyone.
Okay.
Motion to direct staff to bring council a resolution encouraging the repeal or amendment to the December 4th meeting with examples from other cities.
Correct.
Okay.
And Dale, do you still want to second that?
I'll second that.
Yeah. And actually, and before we vote on it, I'd like to have one more key point that I got out of the meeting in St. Helens, was that part of the amendment was actually the reversal of the criminalization, making it,
Criminal.
yeah,
Yeah.
somewhat of it. So,
Unfortunately,
you know, they're,
the way in our justice system, the only way to force somebody to do something is through criminal process.
right.
So you're not going to get there by letting them self.
They're not making their best decision for.
No, and that's the problem. They're not making. Yeah. So there's a point to where a judge has got to say, you got to do this.
Yeah.
You can only do that in a criminal setting that I am aware of. Yeah. So that's the unfortunate part. If we had another process, I'd be all ears.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think we should suggest some solutions. And this doesn't do that.
Yeah, it just leaves it up. I think you guys might want to say, this is what we'd like to see.
Yeah.
While you're discussing it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Call the roll.
Mayor Hobart.
Aye.
Counselor Wagner.
Aye.
Counselor Norman.
Aye.
Counselor Ash.
Hi.
Counselor Webb.
All right.
Business from department.
Nothing.
Okay.
I was like,
Yeah.
hey, but then I was like,
No.
no.
We're getting there.
Okay.
Ordinances and resolution.
No.
Any correspondence? Okay. City admin.
Is the date's wrong. Thank you, Susan. I'll fix it on my thing. I use the old one so I don't
Yeah.
leave out a subject, but I'll fix it. Okay. So we went up, finally got into the well. It won't pull any samples up. The rats had taken over the control box
No.
up at Odom's. So DEQ is bringing their own system to get the sample. And that's still planning to happen sometime this month. I think the week after Thanksgiving, but hasn't given me an update. We did receive the grant, as I've told you guys. We're still awaiting the contract. Once we have that, we have multiple pavers and chip sealers that we're going to be sending, asking for bids. The Storm Ready City, finally got a hold of her. She wasn't calling me back because the sign got delivered to a different department of the National Weather Service and sat in their department for 4 months until they got new staff that were cleaning up this room. And one of them goes, "What's this?" And she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's Vernonia's sign," that had been at the other department. So she was glad I called. They will be here next Tuesday, not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, on the 28th at 10 a.m. They would love to do a photo op with any council members that are available to come to do the kind of passing of the Storm Ready City and for the papers. I've notified Vernonia's Voice, so he's going to come get some pictures. Real short ceremony, and then we're going to kind of figure out where it fits. If it fits by the high watermark sign, I think that's the most meaningful, but it may mean we need to lengthen the pole. So Mitch is going to peruse the public areas where it would be most seen and relatable, and then we'll put it up. Staff, Ben just finished sending all of the last 5 years of floodplain development permits to the FEMA ladies. Then we had a couple of properties that were dealing with corrections. And then there is some need to amend the development code in the section that talks about floodplains and the rules. They had a couple of changes they wanted to propose by May, that we change our code to address what FEMA's requiring in the floodplain and have it match. So we'll be, once we get a planner, so we're, as you guys know, we're out right now for RFQ for planning. And once we have a planner, then the planning commission with the planner will make the drafted changes, and then council will adopt Title IX and the whole process. So it can't just happen immediately, but we have till May to do it. The docs, still waiting on that commission meeting on the 15th. And then once we do that, I do have 3 construction companies to get bids from for that. So that's good. To date, we have not received any response from ODOT engineers in response to the 10 crossings that we sent the report about. So Robert was following up with that. And that's kind of all I got. Upcoming meetings are there. We're closed this Thursday and Friday. And then if anybody wants to come, I'll see them on Tuesday for the sign ceremony.
I'll have to talk to my boss.
Good.
Well, having been so involved with that early on and for
Yeah,
several years, that's important.
right? You should be photo op.
Yeah.
Tell them it's a have to. You guys have any questions for me?
I do. What did we end up getting for the RFP on the campground?
We only got one.
Okay.
I've not delved into it. I was gonna call the members that we had said were wanting to review. I mean, review it. And they said they'll meet the budget, so.
Okay.
But I'll be calling them hopefully tomorrow.
Okay.
Expense,
Thanks, Jamie, me, and
I think that was it. I think there was 3 and then there were 2. Was there another one?
I think there was
Carol?
3 from Parks. It wasn't Carol. I want to say it was Kim.
Oh, okay. I'll look at my notes. I have it written.
And Jamie and Spence.
Okay.
And then me and was it Susan?
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the FCA grant, so talking to Ben, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but and for the counselor's information is actually this project bigger than $250,000. We're actually got about 370,000 in there
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
for paving and work, chip sealing.
Yeah, I don't, how,
Ben says we're spending a lot of our own money on this out of streets. Okay, well, maybe.
talk to me. I'll talk to him tomorrow. I'm not aware that it's $120,000 more. I think we added a lot of streets in there because we didn't want to do what happened the one year. But I don't know that I'd have to look at the estimates unless the estimates have really changed. We don't have 120 ourselves.
Okay, well, yeah, I thought that was a little odd, but he said we had the money because of a couple of years, because of the ADA ramps, we haven't been expending money or something. Anyway, so I guess there's some confusion on that.
Or I'm not understanding what he's saying.
He was saying the whole scope of the project was closer to
Okay,
373,000, I thought was it.
that was today?
Yeah, and he said that once before to me too, so.
Okay.
Anyway,
We'll only bid what we have money for, Dale.
yeah,
So if there is the money sitting, but I don't remember the money sitting in there in budget, which it would
I
have.
didn't either, so.
Okay, yeah. I'll talk to Ben. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying.
Was he including ARPA money or anything?
No, I don't.
No.
No,
But I just have to figure out exactly what he's saying. Do you want me to bring that to council?
well,
I mean, I don't,
no, we can just discuss it.
or I can bring you an update in my next report.
Yeah, in the next.
Like, hey, and this is how it's breaking down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I imagine there's some skin in the game on our part,
There doesn't have to be.
the prep work, or is that, I mean, but that would be minor.
Well, and that's usually, we don't usually write that as a separate amount because it's their daily work. But yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
No more surprises.
I'm just like, what?
Anybody else? Thank you, Josette.
You're welcome.
Items from the mayor and council.
I will work on Citizen of the Month, make sure they're available.
Good.
What was that?
Citizen of the Month, I'll make sure they're available for next meeting.
December meeting.
So are you going to take the slot in December
I'm
or?
taking my November slot and
She's doing it December 4th.
First meeting.
She's going to do the
And
first meeting in December, so
Need-
she's still going to have one for
Yeah.
second meeting in December?
Yeah.
I'm the next person, I just want to make sure.
You just want to be shortchanged. Bring your citizen of the month on December 18th.
Yeah, all right. I'm ready,
Okay.
I think.
Anything could happen.
Right? Good.
Anybody else, any other council members? Well, I have just one thing. I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving this coming week and thanks again for staff for all you do.
Thanks.
Prepare for these meetings and we'll move right into action item summary then.
Okay. So staff's going to look into permits for the structures. I don't believe there's any because they're not things we permit. And bring that back to council and let the person that spoke from topics from the floor know that information. We're going to bring back the resolution for the solid waste collection increase to the December 4th meeting. We'll be bringing also a draft resolution acknowledging the issues with 110 and examples from other cities and counties. And I'm going to talk to Ben about the SCA and report back to you guys in my December 4th the CA report. Sorry, I was writing and talking at the same time. Anything else I missed?
Okay. Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 8:10 PM.